Welcome to the Socialize Strategy. Today, we welcome Tammy Nelson, co-founder of MyConquering. She and her son designed inspiring fidget jewelry to help you feel empowered, focused, and calm. I'm showing it right now on the screen. Their success on social media is, I don't think, an accident, and I think she's going to tell us how it happened and share all of her insights to creating a small business and having it be successful right here with us live. Thank you so much, Tammy, for agreeing to the workshop and podcast. I appreciate you so much.
Amazing.
But it's
Thanks
so
for
much fun
having
to
me.
meet. Yeah, so much fun to meet you in person. I'm excited that you're here. So, you know that our mission here on the podcast is to share social media insights, strategies. But today we're going to start a little further back before the social media piece, because I think a lot of people have ideas out there for businesses, but they don't even know where to start to bring it to life. So, in this case, we're going to start way at the beginning. And if you would not mind, if we could take a few minutes and just tap into the very beginning, you're working full time, you had an idea or somehow an idea was formulated, and what steps you took to turn it into a product and a brand. And I will let you take it from the beginning and get to share a little bit, and I'll interrupt you with some questions.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love to talk about it. It's fun to reminisce. We're at about the 4.5 year mark of our brand, but it started actually in 2018. I first had the idea to create interchangeable jewelry. So the first thought about it was not so much for the fidgeting aspect, although that was still important. Our first real goal of the brand was to create something that would help people, I guess, really live with intention and kind of take at least that, we're very busy, right? And so to take that small pause at the beginning of each day and think about their day ahead and what might most help empower them to conquer the day, which is, of course, where our name came from, Conquering. That came a little later than the product idea, but that was really the impetus of it, is how could we help someone, not just like put on the same old ring and necklace that they wear every day, but to actually maybe stop and think, what does my day ahead look like? And so our idea at first was to create a ring that had an interchangeable piece, and that piece had a hidden message on it.
Ooh.
And that hidden message would be revealed when you took the ring off and gave it a spin. So there's like part of the letters on one side of a disc, and then the other parts of the letters on the other side of the disc. So your eye would kind of complete the word when you spin it, you're looking at it. So that was the original idea. I kind of had the idea, and then I talked to my son, who at that time, I guess, would have been only, gosh, 19,
Right.
maybe
He's
at
probably
that
still in
point.
college, or was he out of
Yeah,
college
he
or
was
still?
just in college, like
Oh,
just
wow.
or a year in or something like that. And I had the idea, but I don't really have like an engineering kind of mind. And
So
so,
wait, I have to raise my hand. How do you have an idea that part of a word's going to be there and then you're going to spin it to complete it? That's interesting because I'm looking at what I have now, for example, of people that are watching. I have like two jewel pieces here. I didn't get the words ones. I got the more jewelry, which I'm sure evolved. But what
yeah,
made you think, oh, if I have part of a word, did you see something in art, in nature? How did that come up?
yes. Yes, there are there's actually even other jewelry that has kind of an idea like that, that dates back to a, really many, many, many years,
Okay.
decades ago. And also, I don't know if you've ever seen like like maybe it's like a book that you flip through a book, like a
Oh,
flip,
yeah.
and then like it looks like it animates as you
Yes,
like
yes.
push through the book. Well, it's that kind of an idea that came to me. And like I said, there are other jewelry pieces, nothing really very prevalent on the market now, but from a long time ago, I had a necklace that my mom had that had a little bit of this idea. It said, "I love you."
Oh,
And but it wasn't interchangeable.
okay.
That's why the interchangeability was such a key point, because I thought, well, it's great that it says "I love you," but it just says "I love you" all the time. And what I wanted was something where people could say maybe they had a day where they needed to be really creative. So maybe they had one that would say "create" when you spun it, or maybe they really had a lot of trouble focusing. And so one could say focus, or one could say you got this. Maybe you had a really challenging presentation you had to give, and they that day said, okay, I got this, I can do this. And so they pick the you got this element to put in their ring that day.
Okay.
So that's really that was really the impetus. And as you said, we have now expanded in so many ways. We
Right.
have 400 elements, I think, and many of them are crystals. But again, still the same idea. Some people choose a crystal. Like today, I chose this particular crystal just because it matches my outfit. But
I love it.
sometimes I'll pick one because it's known for, like, for example, Dalmatian jasper is a crystal that's known for joy and playfulness and family. And sometimes I will purposely pick that on the weekend to remind myself, like,
Mm.
stop working and
This
get
is
out
what the
and
weekend
do
is
something with
for.
your kids.
I love it.
And so it is just about that, like, mindful living and really just focusing on your day, living with intention. So that's really kind of how the idea started. Um,
Gosh, it's a great story because I had no idea that it was that's how it started because now I see where you are now and it's what's on your website now and it's interesting to see the evolution. So ideas can always change. It doesn't have to be you have this idea now. And I love to use the word fluid because things can change if you can go with the flow and see where it's supposed to lead you. Oh, I love it.
And that
Okay.
definitely happened a lot
Okay.
while we were prototyping. So kind of getting back to what you had asked about, like, where did we begin and sort of like how did my son kind of join the
Hmm.
cause? So I had this idea, but I didn't actually know how to, like, make two pieces connect in a way that they could be changed out every day, but also stay securely in place when you didn't want it to fall out.
Right.
And he had just a whole bunch of ideas about how it might happen. And so we just together kind of started noodling and, like, sketching things out. And fun fact, our first word that we made on our first prototype was the word wow, which
Mm.
also, if it's the other way, says mom. So he picked that. That was his first sketch. He's like, I'm going to pick this one because you can read it as wow or mom.
Oh,
But
I love that.
yeah,
That's so
so that was fun.
that's really meaningful, especially that's it's coming from your son. I love that.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
just to let you know, occasionally if I raise my hand, it's just because I don't want to talk over you, but I might want to interject something. It just helps with the
Perfect.
audio. So I'm just letting
Yeah.
you know that and everyone else in the chat. That's why I'm raising my hand, not because I'm waiting for my turn.
Perfect.
Just letting you
Okay,
know.
got it.
Okay. Yeah, Julie and I
Um,
have a good system when we podcast now. We're like so that
yeah,
the other person knows to pause for a second.
I love it.
Anyway, this is amazing. All right. So I love that. What now? I want to know does your son have an engineering background or why is he just good at figuring things out?
Yes, he's always been interested, like, in how things work. Like, as a little boy and as he grew up, he always would, like, take things apart, and he just would see things in, like, a different light, I guess, than I would see them. I'm a very visual person, but I don't really have, like, the same curiosity and understanding that he does about, like, how something actually works. So yeah, he'd never studied engineering, but just really always
Okay.
just kind of had an aptitude for understanding that kind of thing. And so he kind of just was helping me out on the side while he was in college and really helping me with prototypes. We went through so many prototypes.
So did you make them?
So yeah, so fun story.
Okay.
We actually we had he had created a sketch of our design, which ultimately one of our first sketches and our first prototype made out of literally a piece of paper um, actually became very close to the final production design. But we went through from that first prototype until we actually started production, we went through about, I don't know, 30, 40 other
Wow.
designs and ultimately ended back almost where we started, but with a slight adjustment that ultimately made it work. But our very first prototype, like I said, was made out of paper. And then we hired a student actually from the University of Cincinnati to take that idea and that design that my son had done and turn it into a CAD rendering of it.
Oh.
And then we took it to the Cincinnati Public Library. They have a maker space, which is just kind of like an open space. I think a lot of libraries have them where you can, make things, and they have digital printers. And we went on a little flash drive. I took this CAD design and I went, and for 20 cents, they
My
printed out for me a plastic prototype. And that was the first prototype we got that was, like, actually you could put it on your finger. It was like in real size. It didn't actually spin, and it didn't click, and you couldn't like spin it fast enough. You couldn't spin it to read the word, but it gave us at least something we could hold in our hand and like give the idea. And then, of course, that propelled us further. And eventually, we started prototyping through a company called shapeways.com. They
Wow.
do a lot of 3D printing, and we were able to then prototype in metal. So that got us closer to the real design before we actually went into manufacturing.
Okay, so the plastic one worked pretty, was a plastic, right? The first one. So
Yeah, the first one.
that one worked pretty well for you to see that it was, you were onto something, you were feeling it.
Yes. Yes.
Amazing.
It gave us
Okay.
at least enough confidence to take it further. And then we went into metal prototyping. And then ultimately, then we had the hard part of like, how do you find a manufacturer?
Right. Because that's where you start spending money. I mean, the thing is, right up until now, it's the two of you conceptualizing. It's like whatever money it was for the library machine. But
Yes, the
that, but
20
then
cents.
it's, yeah, then it gets intense. So now I need to know in this, was it in this order? So did you first think, okay, let's make branding, let's name it, website, blah, 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 before you did production? Or did you do everything simultaneously? Because there's a lot that has to happen parallel almost, right?
Yes, yes. We did a lot in parallel. I would say there was two big pieces happening in parallel, and one was just what you said, the naming, logo, branding, um, design, website, all of that we were starting to work on once we got pretty comfortable with a prototype. But of course, like everything, it takes longer than you think. So we did get to a point where we were like ready on the marketing branding side, and we still didn't have a really good solid prototype. And
Oh,
so they weren't
yeah.
exactly perfectly aligned from a timing perspective, but we did do both simultaneously so that once we did have a working prototype, we were like ready to go to market.
Amazing. Now, that stuff that you said, branding and website and all that, that was all done by you and your son, or at this point were you bringing in people in terms of designing logos and things like that?
Yeah, so so my background, I've worked in marketing my whole life. So fortunately, that is one area that we felt really confident in. And so I was able to do a lot by myself on the branding side, but we did hire just a freelancer that did help with some of the fine tuning and
Hmm.
like the logo development. And
And was it
then
always called My Conquering from the beginning?
it
Once you landed
was,
on that name? Okay, so
it
it hasn't
was.
changed. That hasn't, I love it.
Yes, we explored quite a few different ones, but we ultimately really loved Conquering because if any of you look at our logo, the C and the O were actually designed in a way that it actually mimics the look of our flagship product, which is our fidget ring. Because
Oh,
the C is the ring band, which is very much like a U shape, or in this case, a C shape. And then there is an element that clicks into that ring band that at least started as a circle, like an O. So our logo just like perfectly kind of came out of our
I'm
of our
showing it.
product design. And so we were very happy that we were able to secure that trademark because I think I would have been devastated after
Right.
we kind of like had that moment where we're like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. And
Right.
then,
And I
yeah.
never even realized that about the logo. So now I can't wait to look back at it
Yeah.
and really fully process that. I love it. So at this point, you also had to hire a trademark, pay for that trademark. Because I know that that's not cheap either, by the way. I know that from doing it on other things and work with
Yes.
my job. So it's not cheap. So now at this point, you're committed and you know that you're going to make some kind of a personal investment. Luckily, you were working full time still, and you're still
Yeah.
working full time. Is that right?
I am. I am still, I
Insane.
have a traditional full-time job as well as running this company.
Insane.
Fortunately, I have a lot of help in running the companies. So it's good, but it did give me and continues to give me the freedom,
Right.
right, to really take risks and go after it, right? If this was, putting
Oh,
roof over
yes.
my head and feeding my family, I might have to play it a little more cautious, and
Right.
that is the benefit of
Yeah.
still
It's a
having.
benefit. And it's also like for your own soul that you know that you have, you're doing this, but it's almost like you have your backup plan still in place. You're not
Yeah,
like throwing it all to the wind and, on a wing and a prayer. There's something to be said for that,
exactly.
I would think.
For sure.
All right. So
nice
that's happening. Branding, website, blah blah blah. But are you planning also at this point that you're going to sell on a website? Did you have plans for how you were going to do fulfillment? And talk to me about that because I really know nothing about it. When you hire a company to design, are they also then fulfilling the orders? Were you doing that out of your house? I see that different ways people, you know, proceed.
Yes. So I would say we did always plan to be an online business. Yes, I would say that, but with dreams and hopes to make it into retail at some point as well. But it was definitely started with a focus on online. And we were definitely doing it out of our house for a long time. We did it out of our house. In fact, funny story, and I know we're kind of jumping ahead, which is
It's okay.
fine. But so we'll just jump to, we launched the brand in 2020, January of 2020, right before the pandemic. So at first it felt like the worst possible timing. And it kind of was like our first few months. I mean, the world was focused on many other more important things than buying jewelry. Um, but it ended up honestly being truly, I think, our saving grace because so many people, once the shock of COVID in March, April, when people kind of then all of a sudden were in their homes and probably really anxious and could use an anxiety ring,
Yeah.
and they're online and TikTok was taking off and we weren't on there yet. But, we just had a captive audience. Everyone was sort of like
Right.
in a
I'm
different
telling
space.
you. Yes. And
Yeah.
that was key for a lot of people who got on social, especially on TikTok at that time, because
Yes.
because I was there right on with you in March 2020, we were ahead of the curve of people, especially older people embracing it. We suddenly had the time to bother. I don't think if there was a pandemic, I would be here right now because certainly not on TikTok because I wouldn't have had time to learn it. And I
Same.
had so much time on my hands. And I do think people were scrolling more. And so if the purchase wasn't like thousands of dollars, it certainly would be something they would be likely to invest in.
Yes.
So, okay. So did you
Yes.
start on Instagram first or how did you first start your marketing?
Yeah, so we were actually, yes, Facebook and Instagram is where we first,
Okay.
that's the first place we opened up a page for Conquering was on Facebook and Instagram. And then of course, a little bit started trying to build a list, but we hadn't hired any marketing help yet, so it was not very good. We
Right,
were
right.
doing
Okay.
our best, but definitely on Facebook and Instagram. And I'll be honest, like our sales from January to like the first half of 2020, January through June, I think maybe like $6,000
Okay.
total, like very small, under $10,000
Right.
between January and June of 2020. And then my son was home from college for the summer and he said, I think you should get on TikTok. And I'm not kidding. I said, what's TikTok? I'm like, what is that? And then he's like, like the dancing, like where we all the girls, I have two girls as well that are younger than he is. And they're like, like where the girls are doing all the fun dances and stuff. And I was like, you want me to go on TikTok? And he was like, no, we'll start a TikTok account. And I was like, great, if you can do it, awesome. So I'm like, go ahead. So he set up the account and then didn't do anything with it. He's
First of all,
like,
what's your son's name? Tell everybody in the chat.
his name's Jake.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Jake gets on TikTok. Well, he didn't get on. He just made a
Yeah,
TikTok.
he just made an account for Conquering and then just like went back to college in the fall. And then there we sat. So August comes around and all summer I'm like, well, are you going to do anything with that? Like, do you need well, how can I help? Are you going to do something? Oh, yeah, yeah, I'll do it. He's not a social media guy. Like he
Right.
does really not enjoy social media and it's just like not his thing. And so August comes around, like beginning of August, and he's like headed back to school. And I'm like, well, now what am I supposed to do? Here I have this account, I have nobody to do anything with it. And he's like, oh, mom, well, you should just get on. And I'm like, oh, great. I'm like this old person, like, really? Yeah, so I
This
did.
is
So I did. I
crazy.
started. I posted a few videos. They were cringy. Like if you scroll back to like
Right. Scroll back. I always wonder who does it. Does anybody scroll back and really see how we
I
started?
would die if I like seen my first few videos. But then there was a day when I posted a video and it was I remember it so well. The video was and it was very timely and relevant. So, we were all like going back, people were going back to work by this point. It's August. So like pandemic kind of started end of March,
Hmm.
April, May. A lot of people were still like work from home. And then a lot of people were still work from home through the summer, but they started like heavy on Zoom, right? They're on
Right.
like Zoom calls like over and over and over and over again. And so the video I made it looked exactly like us right now. So there I was on Zoom, and the caption said, I was just there like talking like this on the video, and it said, what people see on Zoom, and this is this. And then it cut to my hands down where you can't see them, just like right now, you can't see my hands, and I'm clicking my ring.
Oh my God.
And so it's just that video. So it was like what people see on Zoom and then what I'm actually doing on Zoom. And then they see me doing this down below. And I remember I like posted the video. None of my videos had like, they all had a couple views, like maybe 100 views. It was like nothing. And so I posted the video, and then I remember we like went out, we cooked out that night, and we were like, and all of a sudden I look at my phone and I'm like, it's just like ding,
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 ding. Because
ding,
you had
ding, ding.
notifications on, which I
And I'm
have
like,
since
oh
turned
my God,
off.
what's happening? And all of a sudden I look and I'm like, oh my gosh, it has 1,000 views, 10,000 views, 100,000 views. And it's like climbing like crazy. And all of a sudden I look on our site and it's just like order, 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 order. I mean, the orders, like, I can't even tell you. It was like one of the most exciting moments of my life. My son just happened to be here that night. And it completely sold out our site. Like it was insane, like completely insane, like dream come true moment. We were not at all prepared for it. We didn't have an office yet. Like we had product, but we didn't have an office. Like it was crazy. And so that was really the start
Oh my God.
of,
Time
you
out.
know,
Question.
yeah.
Raising my hand. I have major chills. I literally feel like I just lived it because I know that feeling of a viral video. So multiply that by you've sold things. Okay. I
Yes.
literally am freaking out. Number one, I didn't know that at all because we didn't talk. For anybody listening, we did not prep for this call. This is like real time. The only thing I asked Tammy this morning is it okay if we start at the beginning? And she said, okay. So
Yeah.
here we are. But I had no idea that that's what happened. I'm completely blown away. I also still don't. So at this point, you had a bunch of rings and parts and oh, these are called elements for anybody listening. That's why she's using the word elements. So these pieces that click in are elements. So you
Yes.
had rings, the shapes, the rings and the elements in your house, and you would
Yes.
now have orders coming in like freaking rapid fire. So
Yes.
first, how did you react? What did you do? Did you think I got to bring people in to help me make these ship? How'd you do it?
Yeah. Well, so I did, at that point, I had someone that I had originally hired as a personal assistant. Because I have a full-time traditional job and I was running this business, I had hired someone. She originally was working just like 3 to 5 hours a week, helping me with personal, like calendaring and scheduling,
Right.
like to manage, I have 3 kids and, just kind of coordinating things like that. Um, and I had had a product prior to this, a much smaller product, much smaller. It's not even worth talking about
Okay.
on this, but she helped me with that a little bit. So she was already like geared to be able to, take orders. I mean, because we had been taking orders since January. So
Okay.
she was able, and out of her house, same thing. So she lives about a half an hour from me, and she was able to fill orders, and it was just her. So when it happened, yes, we called my kids' friends. We're like, we need
God.
help. Like they went to her house. They like literally drove a half hour, went to her house and around her kitchen table, sat and filled orders. And I was driving all around town because we didn't have enough boxes, like the jewelry boxes that
Go.
came in. And I'm driving to like every Michael's and Hobby Lobby and where any place that had like little like crafting like boxes that we could use, and I'm buying out every possible. And then I'm going to like Sam's and Costco buying like little bubble envelopes because we send the orders in. And I'm like buying every bubble envelope I
Oh
can
my
find
God.
to
This
like
is what
ship
we need
out.
to know behind the scenes, what's really happening, because that's what nobody really talks about. And Julie
So
and I
true.
always talk about this as ideas for content is showing what's actually going on in your business. But
Yeah.
that's insane. So you literally had to make those orders happen and figure out how to get more product in probably, right? Because you were
Yes. Yep.
that's
And
stressful.
it was stressful. And then of course the business side of you is also like your guts like in knots because you're like, oh my God, I'm missing, like I'm having this viral moment and I'm out of product.
Mm,
And now what? Like, oh, it's going to be 2 months before I have more product in. And how can I like keep people engaged and excited? And like, how
right.
can I like capture their enthusiasm and get them on an email list and whatever?
So that
So
you can tell them later that it's coming. But the other
back,
thing is,
yeah,
is there a way, could you figure out how to make a wait list quick, or you couldn't even figure, I mean, I don't even know
we
if that's
did.
oh, you
We
did.
did.
Okay, good.
We figured out a way to like have a like a back in stock notification. So
Amazing.
let people to sign up. But yeah, so that was a fun, like it was gave us the taste of what could be and gave
Wow.
us the confidence in the idea, because having only had like a few $1,000s of sales over 6 months time, we were like, well, is this a dumb idea? Like, are people not really
Right,
loving it? And
right.
then when
And
one
then that's it.
video
Yeah,
did
one
that,
video.
we're like, okay, we just haven't gotten the word out to the right, or we haven't demonstrated it well enough until this point, or haven't reached the right people. And of course, there've been a million up and downs since then, but that was like the turning
Yeah,
point. And TikTok has been just like such a huge, huge fuel for our fire. And I
yeah,
think
for
I've
sure.
been was so excited to find you on TikTok because
Oh,
there aren't a lot of people, and I know you said it before, so I'm feeling you opened the door to the age.
oh yeah, absolutely. No problem.
Like I'm in my
This,
50s and there aren't, I mean, now there are a lot more of
yeah.
us on
Yes.
the app, but at back then, like I was the oldest person I knew on the app for sure.
And
Um,
along came me on your For You page.
yeah, so it was different, but I think that, people like appreciate the authenticity and they appreciate the feeling like they know the company, the brand. They like to understand like what you're all about. They like to see the behind the scenes. Like they feel like they're in the know and they really
Mhm.
have like that unique perspective. And so I feel like so many brands, like if they have someone that's willing to be out there and be the face of the brand, they're having like
Trusted. Yeah.
wild success because it's
Trust.
people
Yeah.
crave it.
So you didn't really even know how to make videos probably until, I mean, is that really, really where you learned? Because you said early on you were scrolling and that's how you came across me. And is that
Yeah.
partly, and were you doing all your own content still?
Yes.
Are you,
Yes. Well, today, I do have a team of people,
okay.
but very part-time. So I still am like very, very heavily involved in TikTok. I would say I'm the lead person running our TikTok account still today. I do all of our lives, and I shoot all of our raw video. But I do have help editing
Okay.
and captions and posting on most days of the week. I have help. So I'm not a totally a one person show anymore, but I'm still definitely the
Yeah.
main
Yeah, you're
base
the
and
face of it. You're who I see. I mean, you're who I see
yeah.
on my For You page. So that makes sense. But now let's just talk about the how you work it out with social media. So if you're shooting the content, how do you have a platform you share with the team? Do you use something like Plannable HubSpot, any of the I'm listing off, but like Airtable, how do you share the content? Because if you're doing and you're shooting in your phone, as I always preach, then it's only in that person's drafts. So do
Yeah.
you have a system and can you share that?
Yes. We do have a system. I don't know if it's perfect, but it's running pretty smoothly for us. So I almost never shoot in TikTok, which I know I mean, I don't know. I see mixed things, but it's hard to edit in TikTok, most things. And so I shoot mostly just regular video. I mean, I just shoot video right on my iPhone. We have a system with the person who does assist with TikTok. Um, I upload everything to all the raw video into a Dropbox.
Okay.
And then she is able to take video from the Dropbox, edit it into what is actually going to be published. And when we first started working together, she would run everything by me. Like she would create it and then like screen record her draft. Because, like you said, we can't, even though she's in my TikTok account, we can't see each other's drafts. So she used to, edit it into a video. She would screen record the draft, send it to me for approval. And now we've worked together long enough that
Yeah, you know what she's
yeah, so she just posts, but we have a lot of communication going back and forth about what's launched because we launch new products every week.
Right.
every
Gotcha.
week, new products,
Every week. Wow.
which is kind of crazy for any brand, honestly, but especially for a small brand like us. So that's the biggest thing that she and I need to stay coordinated on is if like there's delays or things that like we don't want obviously a bunch of video to go out if something isn't actually launching on Friday that we thought
Right.
would launch on Friday.
Yeah. Yeah. That's terrifying.
So yeah.
That would be
Um,
the viral video, right? And then you'd be back to day one
Right,
panicking.
exactly. So yeah, and we do, she does use scheduling. She uses Later. And then
Okay.
another person who works with us in some of our other channels uses Metricool. I
Okay.
don't know if you
Those
like
are
either of
yeah,
those, but
helpful to know. Helpful to know. I
yeah.
love that because I've talked about this so many times, not that you would even know this, but on my TikToks, on my workshops and everything in my course is that you don't really have to shoot in the app because it's only especially if you want to if you're running a business and you want to be on multiple platforms, it's not worth it. As much as people will say you'll get better engagement, I don't buy it. I think content drives over everything. If people want to watch your video, they don't care if it was and the platform, the algorithm is not going to care if people are sharing it, they're still going to push it out. So every single one of my tutorials, which gets the most views of anything on my page, is never shot in TikTok. And those are the most views I get. So it's because the content's more valuable to people. So I totally agree with that strategy. Do not change it unless you really have to and you need like a crazy filter or something, then of course do it and
Yeah,
then screen. Then you could always save it and send it to her, whatever. But it's
right.
just debilitating for a business. And I don't think it's worth it if you can find another way to get the engagement. So I love
Yes.
that. So what do you struggle with the most in terms of creating when it comes to social media and getting yourself out there? Do you have like a thing that you would say is your biggest struggle?
Yeah, I think so. I mentioned to you that I'm a marketer by
Mm-hmm.
training and career. So I think the thing I struggle with most on social media is the fact that I can't segment my audience. Like as a marketer, like I can choose like email, let's say we're sending out an email campaign. I can, and we're launching rose gold. I could choose to only send this email to people who bought rose gold in the past,
Mm.
versus blasting my whole email list with rose gold launch that they don't care about.
Oh,
But on social media, it's so hard. Like
it's
that, just
so
like as a
hard.
marketer, it eats at me that I'm like putting it out there. And so what I find myself really struggling with related to that is I forget that sometimes I'm getting brand new people and I need to like go back and
Right.
communicate more fully even what we do. Whereas like my true, what I call my super fans, like I mean,
They know that already.
they
Yeah.
know all that. They just want like what's new, what's coming out on Friday. And they want like more of the behind the scenes and they want like
Right.
that. And so I struggle with remembering to speak to everybody because I
You
can't
never
segment.
know. Yeah, because you can't
Yeah.
segment and you never know. And there's some learning in this that I've discovered from my own content is sometimes even your regular customers, let's say your loyal people that already know your story, you might have something new that that they've already heard, and then they're reminded to send it to someone else. So I do a thing where it's like,
True.
here's how to do a duet and a stitch. Guess what? Everybody who's followed me for a while already knows how to do that. But when I those videos for some reason they get more views for me because it's like a random new person gets it or people I know forward it to someone. So your
Okay.
existing customers might be helping you get to new people. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess because I don't have that audience segmenting in my head, I'm always thinking, well, if the people that are watching this, they're not interested, they'll just keep scrolling and maybe it'll find its way to new people. I don't,
Oh, that's a really good perspective. I have to keep that in mind because sometimes
yeah.
I almost actually feel
You feel
guilty.
bad,
Like,
right?
right. Because I'm like, I know I can literally name off, 50 super fans in my head. And I'm like, oh, I
Yes.
feel bad I'm posting this because these 50 people that
They know
love
this
us
already.
don't
Yeah.
care and don't
It's
want
a
to see
very
it.
highly likely that they're not even going to see it the first time because it might
Yeah.
just get, I don't know. It's really getting into that mindset of social media to say, okay, you never know who's actually going to see this. And in your mind, you think those 50 people are getting it, but they might not even see it. It just might get
Right.
fed to a whole new bunch of people. So
So
it's a
true.
hard mindset to come to grips with. But anyway, yeah, there's something to be
Yeah.
said for that. Oh my gosh,
So true.
it's so tough. Do you make sure you put content out every day? Because you're on my For You page every day, but I don't know if you're posting every day because that's a lot of times it's not even new content that shows up.
We post 3 times every day, 7 days a week,
Three
365 days.
times every
Three
day.
times a day. We do.
Holy, that's impressive.
Yes, we do 3 times a day. And then kind of TikTok is like the center of our universe, I like to say. So we
Oh,
create for
wow.
TikTok, and I know this, you might have, feel free to disagree. You're the expert, Helen, but for us, we create for TikTok because it is our primary channel. It's where we get the most, and then we repurpose onto other channels. Like I said,
Oh,
we don't record in TikTok, but we create with TikTok mind at first, and we post 3 times a day there, and then we will repurpose that content onto Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Pinterest.
oh my God.
So,
Okay.
so
So
yeah,
you're
pretty much all those channels get three
three
times
times a
a
day.
day.
That's
Yeah, right.
amazing. And that's where having somebody that's doing almost solely that, like that's her main job, right? Is to make sure this content's going out every day. It's editing the content and all of that, right?
Yes. Well, I have kind of a collection of part-time people that do it,
Okay.
but yes, I don't
Okay.
have like one full-time person that only
Yeah.
does that,
Because
but
imagine if you had to do it, it's not even doable,
oh,
right?
oh my God,
Not
not,
even a
no
not even
chance,
a chance in hell.
no chance whatsoever.
No chance. Okay, so that's helpful info. Number two, I do agree with you. I will always create for my first platform and then it fleshes out from there. So you're right on with the strategy. And I think it's always been something that I preach because people are like, how do you be everywhere for everyone? It's like you can't really. You have to create for what you want to create for and then push it out from there. So your people are not making, they're not catering the content and changing it necessarily for each platform. They're just sending it out to those platforms, right?
Mostly, yeah. We'll like the videos, yes. They will maybe adjust like captions and
Captions.
things.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like
That
for
makes sense.
example, Pinterest, I am no expert on Pinterest. But obviously it's a different animal. So when we, develop a caption for Pinterest, it's a little different
Yeah.
than
Yeah. Yeah.
perhaps what we've done on TikTok or Instagram.
Okay. Yes. Gotcha. 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 All right. I love that. So I just want to, this topic is always something I like to address with guests because we all have it, even people who are doing the most innocent, like feel good, good for you content. What happens when the haters come out? And have you had experience with that? And I know sometimes for you, it's an innocent thing that happens because you call something a certain thing and the next thing you know, they're misinterpreting it. I think something like that happened to you. So if you feel
It
comfortable sharing
did.
any of that, please do tell.
It did. It did. We have had a few we're lucky because the kind of community that we've cultivated is very kind and empowering and open and accepting and diverse, and so generally we're very fortunate, but by design, like we've worked really
Right.
hard to create an environment like that. But of course there will always be the trolls, and there will always be
Yes.
our most recent, you were referring to one that was like the last thing that happened before what happened a couple days ago.
Oh gosh.
But what you're referring to is we changed, yes, the piece that clicks into our jewelry. We used to call it a spinner because, as I shared earlier, it first was a word that you had to spin in order to read the word. So spinner really fit
Made
back
sense, of
then.
course.
But we have expanded so much beyond that the word spinner just didn't really resonate anymore. And so we changed the word to element, which we love for a million reasons that I won't bore you with now. But in doing so and making that switch, some people, a very small minority, but it always is that, right? It's like,
Yes.
1% or even far less than 1% will be a very loud voice. And people took it almost like I was insulting people who had ADHD or who needed to fidget and used fidget spinners. And I'll tell you what, I won't do it, but down right next to me, I have a whole basket of fidgets. I am a fidgeter. I have ADHD. I am someone who uses fidgets, and that's my whole goal, is to normalize the need
Right.
for stimming and fidgeting and make it look beautiful and discreet so that people don't have to walk into a boardroom carrying a
Holding
colorful
it.
toy fidget spinner. But it got kind of spun out of control and taken in the wrong.
Spun. Pun
Yeah,
intended.
spun. Yeah. Um, and so, well, I'll say two things. One is it is hard, like for someone who, I don't know, I'm a Pisces. If you believe in zodiac signs and like how it creates people, like I'm a person who is just like very much is in tune with other people's emotions and like feel them myself. And I want people to be happy, and I feel there should be more kindness. And so
Mm.
it just like, it's like a gut punch to me when like
Yes.
someone takes something I said the wrong way, or, feels that I've like wronged them. It
Yeah.
is hard personally, but also I always think of it as it's an opportunity to clarify and to build the brand further. And so I always take those opportunities to respond with
Hmm.
kindness and clarity. And usually on the good side of negative stuff like that, you usually get good engagement, right? Like it
Yes.
creates a controversy. And if you've built a following,
They come at your
they come to your
defense. Oh
defense
my God. Oh
in
my God.
droves. And so you feel supported, and like I just take it as a brand building moment.
Good
And
for you.
most recent one we had actually had to do with Pride Month.
Oh,
So we sent out we celebrate Pride all year long. We have all sorts of elements and designs in support of the LGBTQIA plus community. And we sent out our latest release, and of course we got some negative feedback. And for me, again, I just look at it as, you know what, great. It's helping us cultivate the community that we're working
mm,
toward. And so
yeah.
unsubscribe. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's hard to take sometimes. Some of the things that they say are just so
Yeah.
misaligned with my values
I
and our
know.
company's values, but you just say, all right, that's just
Yep.
helping us continue to
Yeah.
refine.
It's hard not to get defensive because you know that you're trying to do something, and I think that you and I are very much alike, and we met in person, so even more so I know this is like you want to try and make it better. You want to try and convince this person no, that's not how it's
Yes,
intended. And you just feel, because also the people pleaser, like you don't want people to feel that way about you. That's not what you're about. So it's very challenging, more so for
yes,
people like us who we don't ever intend to hurt anyone. I mean, if anything, it's the exact opposite. We're trying to welcome everyone in. So
right.
I feel you. And that is probably one of the most challenging things that even recently, when I've had some negativity, I'm like, what? Really? I'm here just trying to help you. This is not, what was meant by this. So frustrating.
I don't know
Oh,
how
gosh.
anyone could ever in a million years give you a negative comment. Like
Oh,
you
honey.
are the most sunshiny, happy. Like I think that's why I was like just instantly drawn to your
Oh,
videos, because honestly, a lot of, not all, I learn things from you all the time, but I'm on TikTok and I do a lot of the things that you teach. I do a lot of them. So I don't, everything you post, I don't learn from, but I learn a lot. And what originally drew me to you was just like, she is like sunshine on
oh,
camera. Like you can't watch one of your videos and just like not feel better than when you started watching it. Like
oh
you're
my
just
God.
so upbeat and you're just so helpful. And I think it's amazing how you are able to, you just clearly a teacher at heart. Like
Yeah. People
you
think I'm
know,
a teacher. That's
yeah,
the
like you're
craziest
an
thing.
expert and such a good teacher, because
Thank you.
you have a way of like breaking stuff down and saying it in a way that doesn't make someone feel stupid for not knowing how to do it, right?
Right. A
Because
lot of
most
people
people
leave
are like,
stuff out.
yeah, right. You leave out important details and then you struggle, but you are so organized and you think
Oh,
through it in such a great way. Like
thank you.
I mean, I've saved so many of your videos
Thank
to
you.
like
Thank
go
you so
back and
much.
learn. My latest was the stop motion. Because
Yeah,
that
the
was
stop motion.
stop
You should
motion.
really do that because there's so many opportunities for you to be able to do stop
I
motion.
know, I'm so excited to try it. I haven't tried it yet, but I have two of your
That's a
videos
good one. It's a
saved
good one.
about stop
Yeah,
motion.
because one of them is using the effect, and the other video you don't
Yes,
have to use the effect. And I
that's
will
exactly the
honest,
two I saved.
yeah, honestly, I'll tell you, probably do it without the effect, just because you're more limited. The effect, it's going to go much faster, and with the other one, you can decide how quickly it's going to move along. So, if you want my
Yes.
recommendation, but
Okay.
the effect is helpful for people who don't want to think and they just want to tap tap tap, and they don't want to have to think anywhere beyond that. It's quicker.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm so excited you saved that because I was thinking that's a good one for you. A lot of product-based businesses can be very creative with this, so have fun with
Yes.
that.
And I
But
had
I
no idea how to do that. So I
Oh,
was,
I'm so
oh,
happy. And that was one of
here.
my first early viral videos ever. That's how one of my earliest where I really got on the map on TikTok was through stop motion. And I think because I love
Wow.
explaining it, because I know how long it takes to do in real production. And to me, the fact that a simple effect or a mobile phone can do this, it is amazing to me. And so I
Yeah.
get so excited explaining it because I am excited that it can be done with my phone. And
Right.
people really get into when I'm excited to share. They're like, "Oh
Yes.
my God, she seems so," and they're writing about me in the third person in the comments. She seems so happy about this. I'm like, yes, because you should know how long it used to take before this
Absolutely.
came along, you know?
I know. Well, and that is the advantage of having more experienced people, right?
Hmm.
On TikTok, because I too have, a lot of experience with video in a whole different way, having worked at
Yeah,
ad agencies and the amount of money that we would spend on a video and the amount of time to create that can
crazy.
now be done just by
It's
one
insane.
person
It's
on a
insane.
phone is like mind blowing.
Yeah. And all
But
the things I have up here from working with all these people, I can now do myself. It's
yeah,
nuts. That's why people
I
think, how are you teaching it? Because I really understand how it used to have to be done. I can explain it.
exactly.
I know. I love it. All
So
right. So I want
true.
to make sure we have time for questions for you because I know we probably have some already. So before we get to the questions, I just have one last one for you, which is what would you do differently? Is there anything that you would change about what you did if you were doing it over? And that if you don't even have anything you'd change, that's fine. Because I'm looking back thinking, I know what one thing is. You should have actually started posting on TikTok in March or whenever he made that account. But anyway, if that's your
Yeah,
thing, maybe. But it had to happen the way it happened. Is there anything you might do differently if you were doing it over?
yeah. I think honestly, the biggest thing I would have done differently is this sounds crazy because I generally think of myself as like a big thinker, like big ideas.
Mm.
But now looking back, I I wasn't thinking as big as I should have back then because we made some
Uh,
choices um early on that were very constrained by that first product. And we still actually
mm,
have some inventory left from things that we did all like circling around that first product instead of thinking as big as we are
uh,
today and as much as was really on the table for us as an interchangeable jewelry brand versus just like a fidget ring company. And
mm.
so I think, yeah, I kind of look back at myself. I'm like, geez, you're a big thinker. Why did you think so small back then? Like,
Oh,
what was holding you back? Like, was it fear
interesting.
or I don't know. Like, I just think we could be even so much further if I had
Wow.
bigger, more open mind back then to what was possible.
Oh, I love that's a really good one because I would never think of that. I would never think about that. So let me start putting some of the questions out here. The first one was, how did you find your assistant that does the video editing? And that might be just that you had a network already, which is fine because I've answered that in the chat to say that we could also help with that. But how did you
Yeah.
find it?
So we have done a lot of sourcing of our employees through friends and family,
Okay.
truthfully. Very little family, mostly just my son, he's
Hmm.
full-time in the business now, but just a lot of friends, and honestly, a lot of young people who needed like flexible work schedules and who
Hmm.
have grown up on social media. Um, and so that really has been like we have a lot of this is kind of a fun fact, a little surprising fun fact. One of our employees is a dancer on tour with Olivia Rodrigo right
Oh
now.
my God.
Another one is on a world tour in China right now for another music artist, a dancer. We have a lot of, and we have another person who works for us who's in Mean Girls, the movie that just came out like a few months
Oh
ago.
my
So we have
gosh.
a lot of like theater and dance. My family's very involved in like the arts. And so a lot of those people need like kind of steady income that's very flexible
Hmm.
because their contracts are, they're like on a tour and then they're not working, and then they're on another tour and then they're not working, or they're in a movie and then they're
Right,
not.
right. That's
And
why you
so,
have to have multiple people because you never know when
yeah,
someone's busy.
exactly. So, yeah, so that's kind of how we found. But I do have like my personal assistant. I actually found through a company who helps me with like administrative stuff. I don't know if you want me to share that or
Sure.
not.
Yeah.
Um, it's called Squared Away, and
Okay.
they were actually on the Inc. 5000, which is how I found them. We were also
Okay.
on the Inc. 5000. And I found them through that, and it's a really cool business model. They employ military spouses so
Oh,
that
I've heard
military
about
spouses who
this.
have to move a lot. Because imagine, right? How could you hold down a job if you are constantly moving because of your military spouse? So they
Wow,
they
amazing.
employ them. And so they have a like administrative assistants that do a lot of things.
Oh, I love, oh,
So,
that's amazing. That's great to know. I'm thinking of one military spouse who has 5 kids. So God wondered how she would ever hold down a job, but that's
yeah,
another story.
yeah, no kidding.
That's
That
her
would be a
job
job.
right now.
All right.
So nuts. All right. So that is one thing that was really helpful to know because I love that and I've heard about this before. So I'm happy to know the
Yeah.
company. The other question that's come in so far is, did you post 3 times a day right from the start? I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to let you run with it. And if anyone else has questions, type them in while we're chatting so we can get them.
Yeah, no, we did not. Well, partly because we didn't see the value when we first started, we didn't know that we could ever go viral. It seemed like something that happened to other people, not us. And so we just didn't even, it took us so much longer in the beginning.
Hmm.
Now I could like, while we were on this, I could quick pop out a video in, 2 minutes. But at the time, it would take me 2 hours to like think of
Um,
the idea and like try to make it just right. And I'm sure you've given lots of tutorials about like, don't do that. Like, don't overthink it. Don't spend two
yes,
hours,
don't
like
overthink
knock
it.
it out, like be authentic, like just go. And so once I realized that and realized how much we could do, it makes all the difference. Yeah. So we
Yes.
started with that.
Yeah, I can imagine that you didn't. And I do think making it simple makes it faster. So another question was what apps you use. I think she already mentioned that you use Later as your
Yeah.
platform. And what was the other one? You mentioned one other
Um,
one.
Metricool. Yeah. We use
Metrocool.
Later
Okay.
and Metricool.
Okay. And if
And
you're
I don't
working with a
really,
go,
I don't really know that we have a reason. I think it's
just
just we have different
who
people on the team that you are
and they just
comfortable
use
with
them.
different ones.
A lot
Yeah.
of times it's who you bring in and what they're comfortable with. So, for example, Julie and I use Airtable. That's another really good one working with a team. And so it's a matter of what you're used to doing. So I love it. I wanted to know this. This is about the posting 3 times a day. I'm so curious about this. Do you think that you have more viral videos since doing that? Do you get more views? That's one question number one. And what was question number two? Oh, question number two is sponsored posts. I noticed that I'm seeing a lot of ads, and I would love to know when you decided to do that and how much stock you put in that. What do you see as far as the return on doing ads
Yeah.
on TikTok, especially?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in terms of do we see a lot more views? It's kind of I can't really compare to back then. Like what back when we were doing fewer posts versus now when we're doing more posts, TikTok's a whole different animal,
Right.
as you know more than anybody. So I would say no. I mean, it's hard to go viral right now for us, especially as a brand. It's
Hmm.
challenging because we have to use commercial songs. Like we can't use we are a business account. We're set up as a business account. Um, so it's challenging things in going viral. We still do, but it's just like not quite as often as we used to back in the heyday when there weren't a million
Yeah.
people on and there wasn't TikTok shop and all that. So I wouldn't say more, but I always feel like the more we get it out there, the more eyeballs we're seeing, the more we can repurpose it onto other platforms. And the platforms kind of change around like what one's hot and where everybody
Hmm.
is and how much it costs to advertise here versus there. It's always shifting. So we're always of the mindset like eggs in lots of baskets, like be on all the places, build our own email list, our own SMS list, like protect ourselves because TikTok is always
Yeah.
at risk of being
We know
banned.
that.
Like you
They
just have
keep,
to kind of just keep going, right? But in terms of paid ads, we did once we got further along in our journey, we did hire a marketing agency to assist with all of our paid ads. And so we do paid ads on TikTok, on Instagram, Facebook, and Google. Yeah, we
and what
don't
do you mind saying what agency you work with?
we work with an agency called Conversion Bird.
Okay.
They're based in San Diego, and we love them
Okay.
so
Nice.
much. They're great. But they help us manage our email list and our SMS list, and then they also do all of our paid ads. So anything you see that's sponsored on TikTok, as an example, they have chosen to do that. And so we communicate back and forth. If we have something that's going really well on an organic basis, like just organically performing well, I will send it to them and say, hey, here's one worth like putting some money
Money
behind. It's
behind.
already
Okay.
going viral. And then they also, are always advising us on like what kinds of videos are doing best. And so sometimes we'll create videos specifically for them to use in ads.
Got it.
Um, so
Okay.
that's the one time that we do sometimes create for different platforms. Like right now they're telling us like, um, one of our competitors is really heavily purchasing ads on Google. And so they're kind of backing off a little bit because the cost per click is just really driving up high. And so we're putting more like in Instagram Reels as
Okay.
an
Gotcha.
example.
Gotcha.
So they'll kind of give us some direction and, we'll adjust and maybe make something for a particular channel, like an
Got it.
Instagram that might be more suited for that channel. But that's really the only time we do that.
Okay. All right. Now, this question, believe it or not, I wrote it down here so that I would ask it, and it just showed up in the chat over here. So, did you start as a business account, or did you just do a personal account in the beginning so you had more chances to go viral with the
Well,
viral sounds?
this should have been my regret that you asked me earlier. Like what
Oh,
would
okay.
so we very early did a business account. And I'll tell you why, because I was afraid. Because my whole career has been in marketing and I've mostly been in financial services marketing. That's a
Hmm.
heavily regulated industry. I'm like a very risk averse person.
Right. You're a
And
rule follower.
I am a rule follower. And so I was very afraid of using a personal account, promoting a business and getting in trouble for using someone's song or whatever. And,
Right.
so I felt like doing the business account gave me like that protection because they stop you. They don't let you. You
Right.
can't post something that isn't approved for commercial use. So that's why I did that. But here's what I wish I had done.
Okay.
Um, and I know of someone who has done it and has been really successful. Do you happen to follow Declan's Mining Company?
No.
Or it's Kelly Rose Sarno, I think is her name. So she's a business owner. She owns Declan's Mining Company, and they have, I think, more than 1 million followers on TikTok. They're really big on TikTok. They might be even way beyond that. And Kelly Rose Sarno, the owner of Declan's Mining Company, has her own
Personal.
account,
Mm.
personal account, and she also does a lot of like beauty influencing too. And so she has a personal account where she does beauty influencing and also talks a lot about Declan's Mining Company and all sorts of other things. And then she has her business,
Uh,
Declan's Mining Company account. That's what I wish I had done. I wish I
right.
started a Tammy Nelson, I don't know what it would just be my name or what, but like a personal account as like just a marketing
For
CEO,
fun.
whatever, and then also a business account. And I wish I would have grown them together because now
Yeah.
I'm just in that business account. And if I like, I mean, I still could, right? I mean, you can always start
Yeah, of
anything.
course.
So I could still start my own account, but I
That
wish
could
I
be
had
fun.
that. I think it would give because she cross posts everything too. Like she'll
Um,
repost each other's. And
so,
so I just think she's like building them together. Like I think it's a brilliant strategy.
okay, but here you go. Because guess what's coming up now? There's going to be the collab feature. Just on Instagram, how you can post to one account and you can invite a collaborator. That's
Yeah.
coming to TikTok. Julie just
Oh,
sent me a screenshot. And I'm really excited about this because we've had the Socialize TikTok for a while. We have a Socialize Instagram. And for a while, I was regretting that we did it separate from me because then I was like, oh, it's confusing because we have the business. And now it's like my personal account is
okay.
bigger. I have the opposite problem. My personal account is much bigger. And now
Oh,
on this business account, I have people that message me and they're like, someone's stealing your content on this
oh,
other.
yeah,
And I'm like, no, it's me.
it's me.
It's me.
Oh,
So the collab might be the perfect time for you to start your second account. That could be really fun. That could be
yeah,
the reason you're doing it. Like here,
right.
now that I can collaborate, here's my thing. And then you can always have the collab thing.
Okay.
I don't know how that works if you use a commercial song on the or on yours and then you collaborate. I don't know how that works in terms
Right.
of collaborating with a business account. I guess we'll find that out soon
Yeah.
enough. So
Okay.
anyway,
Food for thought. Food for thought.
okay.
My
Keep it
husband might
keep
have a heart attack if I like take on one more thing, but
Well, if
um,
you do your own account, maybe it's just you making videos and it's not
yeah,
you don't get stressed about making like 3 a day. Maybe you
yeah,
just do one a couple of the week.
yeah. I'll tell you though, with TikTok Shop, man, like when I love something, I love it. Like
Oh,
I'm just like a passionate person, period, in general. And like I know if I really wanted to be an influencer on TikTok Shop, like I just one time, Helen, one time I posted a video on MyConquering because people kept asking me about my purse, and I love my,
Oh,
I have my purse in like 8 colors. I love this purse. And I made one post about it, and it was before TikTok Shop even existed.
oh my
And
God.
I had,
Everybody's asking for the purse,
oh yeah.
right?
And I linked it. I joined the Amazon affiliate program just so that I could link this purse, like, and put
Oh,
it,
amazing.
but it was super, like, it was not a good user experience. Like the way they had to find it was they had to like click the link in our bio and then go down to this other link. And then they would land on this actually super poorly designed page that had the purse on it. But in one day, I sold like I got $1,000 in commission in one
Oh
day
my
from this
God.
purse, one post
From crappy Amazon
from a
affiliate money.
crappy, yes.
That's
And so I'm
crazy.
like, oh, I could do that.
You could do that. You
But
could so
but I'm
do
like,
that.
no, 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 don't go there. You have a full-time job
You have too
and
much
you're
going
running
on.
this business. You are not also going to be a content creator. Like, That's where you got
I
to
don't
draw the
know.
line.
You have to, well, maybe when your full-time job ends and you decide you're going to move on from
Yeah.
that. But this is what I meant to ask you because you mentioned it, TikTok shop. When did you decide to take My Conquering to the TikTok shop? And why did you do that? If you were
Yeah.
successful with having a link in your profile.
Yeah. Well, we kind of just felt like we've got all this traffic here on TikTok and we're just missing the opportunity for the person who, the super fans, they're going to come to our site. They want the whole experience. They want to see everything we have. They want to poke around, they want to browse.
Right.
They want to see every new thing that comes out every single week. But for the casual viewer who's just like scrolling and like, "Oh, I might want to buy that."
Mm,
Like having it right there,
click. Yeah.
click, boom. So that's why.
Yeah.
And the challenge of it is we we don't get all the information from the customer. We have a lot of restrictions about how we can communicate with that customer. There's really tight guidelines, but we're
Is it
like,
worth it?
yeah,
It is worth it.
it
Okay.
is worth it. It is worth it. We don't have like our whole catalog on it because it's painful. Like it's painful. It's like the integration is painful from Shopify, where our website is
Mm,
hosted, to TikTok Shop. We use an app that connects the two. And we believe we're using the best app that exists, but it's
mm.
still like not that great.
Right, right.
And I don't even think it's the app's fault. I think it's TikTok Shop's fault because they're constantly changing things and then the app has to try to quick catch up to match. And so
Yeah.
it's very challenging. So we only put like our best sellers on there. But yeah, we sell,
Yeah. It's
it's
worth
not
it.
like a huge portion of our sales, but it's probably, I don't know, maybe 5 to 10%,
No, that's all right. So
which is
still
kind
people,
of a
but
lot. I mean,
still people will come to your website though, because like
oh yeah,
repeat customers are not going through the TikTok shop.
yeah, for sure.
Mm. And then do you use Did you start with Shopify? What did you start with as you're selling? Okay. Are you still with Shopify?
We are, but we've
Great.
kind of like grown with the platform. That's one nice thing about Shopify is
Great.
you can keep growing. And like
Right.
now we're on what's called Shopify Plus, which is like their highest, I
Right.
think.
Yeah, so you can start at the lowest one and then work your way up to as needed. So
Yes.
my gosh, this has been so incredibly helpful. It is so great to hear you go through this. My son's doing something right now where he's got doing something in the gaming space, and I'm like, I'm gonna make him listen to this for sure, so he could hear your process. I think there was so much to be learned, and you're so much fun to hang out with. I could keep on going, but we have to end it. You
It's
have work to
been
do,
so
and
fun.
so do I. This is great.
Yeah.
Tammy,
Oh,
thank you
it's been
so much for
so
being here.
fun.
I really enjoyed it. And so I will be sharing this in the newsletter when it releases. If you're not on the email list, get on it so you can get all of the links and everything in the newsletter. Thank you so much for attending. If anybody happened upon this as a podcast just through a search, this is a podcast that is done twice weekly, and we have a matching newsletter, and you can make sure you get everything if you go to hellosocialize.com. And today we've had Tammy from MyConquering. And is your website straight up myconquering.com, right?
It
Nice
sure
and easy. One of the easiest things is having an easy website because you can say it
Yes.
and people can remember it. So that was a real plus. Good job on the naming.
Thank you so much.
Do you have any parting words or advice for people who might want to get started and they're just scared and frozen in place?
Yeah, I would just say it's really easy to just like lose sight of the goal when you have just like obstacle after obstacle. But I think what helped us was just focusing on I know it sounds crazy and so simple, but we just focused on the one biggest problem that was in our way. And we're like, as soon as we get that one done, there'll be another one, but we're always making progress if we just get the next biggest problem done and the next biggest and the next biggest and the next biggest. Because it's real easy to just like go, oh, there's too much, but
Too
you can always
much.
make progress if you just knock them out one at a time.
I love it. Thank you so much, Tammy. Have a great afternoon. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with us today. And everybody, my conquering, get your fidget, get your elements and your rings, your
Yes,
jewelry. There's people in the chat that already said they're going to go ahead and hop right to the website when this is done. So you'll have a couple of sales out of today so far.
fun.
All
All
right.
right.
Thank
Well,
you,
thank you
Tammy.
so much. It was so fun.
Bye. Talk
Bye.
soon. Bye.